Welcome to another sew along. Right, so it's been about a month since we last joined in this group and done a sew along, so I thought it's about time we got making something new. Hi Becky, hi Denise. Right, so just a disclaimer, my eyes, I cannot see what you're writing on the screen, so my eyes will have to keep going to my phone so I can keep reading the messages. Right, so today's sew along is going to be on the medical pouch. Many of you know that I'm disabled. I have 1 or 2 crutches and I'm on quite a lot of medicine, and I'm one of these people that used to be one of these people before I made one of these, where I used to chuck all my medicines into my bag if we were going out and about. And then when it came to that time of the day when I needed to find that tablet, it was always at the bottom of the bag. So I decided to make myself a pouch, and the pouch is brilliant. And also, at the moment, we're having to carry around hand steriliser and stuff to keep our hands clean. So I needed something that I can keep everything all in one place. So I made this wrap. I keep all my tablets in the top pouch, and then the bottom pouch is where I keep like my hand cream and my hand steriliser. Hi Joe. Hi Jane. Hi Jan. Right, so yeah, so I basically wanted to make something that I can keep in my bag and keep it organised. Now there is a blog with all the cutting out measurements, and I have linked that to this video. So once this video is over, this first session of the 2 sew along sessions, once this session is over, then you can pop over to the link and get all the cutting out measurements. Right, so if I just pop this to one side. Right, so just to let you know, this is going to be for people who have been watching me for months now do sew alongs within this group, the view of the camera is going to be this way, and there won't be any close-ups at the moment. I'm still working on buying the camera equipment for that, but I will, if there's any close details, be holding it up to the camera so you can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, see Joe, I'm the same. I take loads of tablets for my my illness and illnesses, and yeah, I'm fed up with like going into my bag, because my bag isn't small, it's a big bag that I carry around. So yeah, I'm with you. I take a lot of tablets too. So right, so let's jump right into it. Any questions, please do ask. This is going to be a 2-part sew along. So the first part today is going to be, we're going to be making the main outer, not the binding bit, and we're going to make the 2 pockets, and then on Monday will be the second part of the sew along at 1:30, and I'll be basically completing the bag and then the pouch thing. And then once I've completed the pouch, I will actually be doing a giveaway, so the person will win that actual pouch. So I'm going to be using, from the last pre-order of the sewing panels, the large bee panel. So it was the one with the bees on that I designed. So the whole panel I used, apart from the really large bee, which is this bit. So I was left with just that bit, which means then I can make a cushion with, but you don't have to use a panel, you can use whatever fabric you want to. That's neat folding up there. Right, so any more before we go? Right, I'm gonna have to like put this here somewhere so I can see the messages. There you go. Right, so the first thing you'll need to get is the outer top flap, which is the measurements of 7 inches by 10 3/4 inches. You'll need the outer piece. So this is this part. I'm going to explain what parts this is as we go along. So as you can see, it finishes here. So we're doing this bit here, the outer bit here. I have gone ahead and interfaced this. You do need to cut fusible fleece, but the fusible fleece, I tell you not to cut until you've actually done a certain part. So don't fuse that fleece or don't cut the fleece out at this point. So what I'm going to do is measure from one straight edge down. So we're going to do a square of an inch here. So I'll show you what I mean. And you're going to do that on both sides of that straight top edge. Not sure it's just me, but your head keeps cutting off. Yeah, it's the way I've had to do the screen. Sorry. Just sat down to watch you finish making unicorn cake. Right, so as you can see, I've got a mark here and a mark here. What I'm going to do, and I've done that for both sides, what I'm going to do is find something that's round. I'm using an ice hockey puck, and I'm just going to match up those two lines and draw around that circle, just in between those two lines. So it's like that basically. So that's what you're going to do. I'm going to cut this part out, then fold this in half, and then cut the other side as well. So you're going to use this as your template. So now I've cut that part, I'm now going to fold it in half, matching up where those two marks are on the other side. And then I'm just going to trim this white bit away, which is the wrong side of the fabric. Right, so I've now got this shape here. I'm now going to take this shape and take the bottom outer piece, which is the longer piece. That's the measurement of the 7 inches by 10 3/4, and that's the 7 inches by 3 3/4. And I'm just going to pop this on one end and draw around those two half moons that I've just drawn, cut out, shall I say. Like so. And then I'm just going to cut those out. So I've just transferred those two marks on, and I'm just going to cut those out. Right, so the next thing you're going to do is get your fusible fleece, and you're going to just draw this on to the fusible fleece. So you're going to draw one of these onto your fusible fleece and one of the small ones onto your fusible fleece. So, and you're not trimming this back like I normally tell you to do in my patterns. So I'm just going to quickly cut around those. So talk amongst yourselves. Right. I tell you to use more fleece from what is actually needed, so you can keep the other part of the fleece for another project. Okay. And so what's everybody up to over the weekend? Is people... Have you got a new one? I have, Carol. Well spotted. Right, so I wanted the... Is it the Onslow or the Osmo or whatever it's called? I wanted the pink version, but they don't do that in the UK. So I ended up getting a Murphy Richards pink one because I really wanted the pink one. No, my other iron was really playing up. It was a couple of years old. I had overpressed the steam button on it, so I had to get a new one basically. Right, so we're now going to fuse this fleece up on to the to what we cut out before. Now, people who have never made a bag before, fusible fleece, you cannot put directly your iron onto it because it will basically disintegrate and burn your iron, and you don't want that. So you're going to pop this right side facing down on your board or whatever. I've got mine on a wool mat. Then you're going to get the glue side of your fusible fleece, pop this on to the wrong side, and then you're going to get a pressing cloth. So the pressing cloth I use is my trusty tea towel. I also turn up the steam on my iron as well, and I've got this on a medium to high setting, and we're basically just going to pop some steam onto this. Ooh, I'm not 100% Maswin. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name right. I'm not 100%. I'm going to have to look that up, and then I'll put it in the chat afterwards. That's a new one to me. So I'm using Vaseline or Vaseline, depending on where you are in the world. And I'm using H640. But you can use, I think Pearltex do a version as well, and other brands do a version as well. Oh, that's okay, Jennifer. Let's see if I missed any steaming up here. Now, the thing you need to do is go around checking to make sure all the fleece is fused, which that one is. I'll just pop over to this one. Not much. What was that? Sorry, Denise. Yeah, your husband, he was in hospital before at the start of lockdown, and he's back in. I hope he's okay. Yeah, I've heard those about the Minky pressing cloths. They're the leading brand of iron boards anyway, aren't they? So, right, so is that the new iron bags? It is, Jennifer. Very steamy as well, which is what I need. Right, so just notice my fusible fleece. I've just cut it a bit less than a bit more. From what needed. Okay. Right, okay. So the next thing we need to do is get the lining pieces and just transfer the circles over the two cutouts over to your lining pieces. So I'm just going to pop those on and just transfer that over. Can you show the finished products? I'm wondering how the lining... Yes, of course. Just bear with me. Let me just transfer these markings over and I'll show you. That's fine, Susan. Okay. The Prim mini irons are brilliant. I do use one, but I find for bag making they're not strong enough to fuse, like the fusible fleece and stuff. Or I say strong enough, I mean they take a lot longer to fuse. Right, so here's the bag, the pouch. So obviously it's got a roll effect, and then if you open it up, that's the lining. It's got a zip pocket, where I keep my tablets, and then I keep my hand sterilizer at the bottom with the actual with my hand cream, because your hands are getting a bit wrecked with the amount of washing we have to do. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we're going to put these to one side, and we're going to work on this part here. So this part here and this part here. And once again, we've got to do the measurements of the circle, but this time rather than an inch, you're going to be doing a 3/4. So I'm going to start off with the small piece first, and it doesn't matter which one, whether it's the outer or the inner, the lining. And I'm going to measure down 3/4 of an inch, and then measure across 3/4 of an inch, and I'll show you that. Yeah, Jennifer, I think that contains alcohol, and as you know that I'm allergic to alcohol or anything with alcohol in, I think that actually contains alcohol. So the hand sterilizer that I use is a foam, and it's alcohol free. So I'll just draw this semicircle, this half moon on, and then I'll show you. Oh, you're alright. Yeah, just ask. If you ever want to see the pouch halfway through and me showing you which parts, please just tell me, because I can whiz on and go. Right, so I've just done the same again on this one, but this time the measurement is 3¼ inches in and 3¼ inches down. And then I'm just going to fold this in half, matching up the two marks, and then I'm just going to cut that semicircle out. It's not even a semicircle, because a semicircle is a half circle. And then you'll be left with this, and then you just need to transfer that over. Now, I've just seen a question, why have I got a hockey pucks? Right, so hockey pucks are great pattern weights. I have about 12-15 of them as pattern weights when I'm cutting out, so that's why I use hockey pucks. So, and because we watch ice hockey and we love ice hockey, so will this video be on YouTube? Yes, and what I'm going to do is do the second sew along on Monday, and then merge the two videos together and then make it as one long video on YouTube for going back. Is your fabric you're using cotton? What is the other recommend? Right, so yeah, I've used cotton, which is, these are my fabric panels that I design, or I mainly say use cotton for most of it, but you can use on the exterior of the long piece and the short piece, you can use PU or cork. In this case I've used cork, but you can use cotton. I'm just using cotton for now. Right, so what I'm doing now is basically getting my lining piece of this piece and just drawing the same circles on. that I've just cut out. Yeah, I've found doing so many sew-along videos, it's a bit tedious, and I'd just rather have it as one long video now. Right, so now I'm going to get the long piece of the wrap, which these are all interfaced. I've used G700, but you can use F220 Visaline or Visaline. Right, so once again, just repeating the same the process of what I did with the outer pieces, transferring these parts here over to this part here. So just bear with me. Is it today schools break up? In the UK, I mean, because I know my daughter hasn't caught up on her homework. So she'll be doing some homework over the summer holidays. Right, I'm just going to trim those back. And we're going to pop these right sides together, and then we're just going to sew. So all the seam allowance that I'll be using for the whole project is 1/4 inch seam allowance. For those who know me, I normally use a 1 centimetre seam allowance, but I'm actually going to be using 1/4 inch seam allowance. So what I'm going to do is get these two pieces first, pop these right sides together. Now I will say pin, but I'm not going to pin. I'm using a standard stitch length of a 2.4. What part of the project am I on? Right, so I'm making at the moment this bit here, just this little section here, which is part of the closure flap. And then I'll be moving this long piece here, is this longer piece of the closure flap. So I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch around. I've got Gutermann thread in my sewing machine. Now, new people, you understand that I can't say thread. So it's like a man's name, but I'm using Gutermann Sew-All thread, which is a polyester, and I'm using a size 14 needle, and I've got my walking foot on. I just tend to sew with my walking foot anyway. So I'm reversing my stitch at the start. And just lifting up my foot as I go along, going around that circle. That's okay, Alison, don't worry about it. This video will be on catch up later. And then I'm just going to do the same. All I'm sewing is that part there. I'm leaving the straight edge part. I'm just going to do the same with this one. Pop them right sides together. And this time sewing the long straight round the curve edge, down the bottom long straight, and leaving this part here. So once again, hello Fred. Yes, hello Fred. Sewing 1/4 inch seam allowance on this one as well, using the same stitch length, reversing my stitches at the end. Yeah, John used to take the mick out of me. Yeah. still does. I think he did it while I was on Crafters TV the other week as well. But I was so in the zone, I just blanked him out. So for those who don't know, Crafters TV is a TV channel, a smart TV channel, which is called Crafters Companion, and I was on there a couple of weeks ago demonstrating one of my patterns. Just make sure I've caught all my seams. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, because I've got a curve, you need to snip in or use pinking shears. So I'm going to use pinking shears. They're not the best pinking shears, but oh well. I need some better ones, to be fair. Now, if my husband's watching, Michael, I need a new pair for Christmas, please. Because our anniversary and birthdays have gone. Right, so I'm just doing the same for this one as well. Am I going back on CC? They've asked if I'll be available. Not 100% if I'm going to be doing my patterns, but they've asked if I will be available. They really want me into the studio, but with what's going on in the world at the moment, I don't think because I have to use public transport and we live miles and miles away. Most of you know that I'm really bad asthmatic, and I can wear the masks for a short period, but then I really do start struggling. So I don't think I'll cope on a public transport train, and that's 3 trains to get there, and I'll be doing that for about 3 to 4 hours journey. I don't think I'll cope with that, and it will really set off my asthma. And to be fair, I don't want to risk not wearing a mask, if you understand where I'm coming from. So, but yeah, I have said I'll go back, but if they wanted me to do the remote way again, like doing the live, I will do the live. Right, so I've just turned this right side facing out, and I'm using a chopstick, and I'm just poking out those corners and giving it a roll. Yeah, tinfoil can sharpen scissors. I'm not 100% about pinking shears. I'm going to have to look that one up. But these are only really cheap ones anyway. I want a nice pair. I've seen the pair I want as well. So. Right, so I've just pushed out the corners. I'm just going to do the same with this one. You stay home at the moment, Bex. Do the yeah. See, right. I'm going to be truthfully honest, and I know we've had a meeting about the remote doing the demonstrations from home. They find that they don't make that many sales with the remote television. So this is what they call remote television, where I do a live from home. They find that they don't do many sales, and because it's a TV sales channel, sales come first basically. So we're not 100% how it's going to be, whether I'm going to do a pre-recording and then they add it in. But I like me and John have both said we like the interaction and stuff. So when you make something thicker like this pouch, can you share the sewing? Yep, right, so, right, okay. So you mean when I'm sewing the rest of the bag, you want me to tell you what the tension is and what I'm using, what settings that I'm using. I generally do go through all my demos telling you what I've got the machine set at, and whether I'm releasing pressure, because some machines you can release the pressure. So you see this walking foot here, when it goes down onto the feed dogs, which is the jaggedy bits, it pushes down when you've dropped the presser foot. Now some machines can't do this, so you will need to have a look into your machine. It will either have a knob on the top or a knob on the side, or the new £5,000 Brother one, it's all electronic. But what will happen is, if you find in that your foot is not going through the fabric, even with a walking foot, and you've got a large needle and you're using the longest stitch length possible, if you're finding that it's not going through, 9 times out of 10, if you release the pressure, which then your foot will slightly raise for you to get that wad of fat, that thickness through, it will actually sew it. Now that's dependent on your machine. I tend to find that some of the cheaper brands, cheaper models, don't tend to have the pressure gauge. I am actually thinking of doing a machine next month's tutorial, so along. I am thinking of doing how to operate your machine. I'm going to get a cheaper brand and this expensive one out and show you the difference between the machines and stuff like that, so you can learn about the machines. Right, so I've turned that right side facing out, I've poked out the corners. I'm just going to give it a really good press. Right, so now I've pressed those, I'm just going to top stitch. You don't need to top stitch the small straight, but you need to top stitch all the way around. I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and I'm going to up my stitch length to a stitch length number 3. Yes, it is a heavy iron. I find a heavier iron means that I can press a lot faster, but also the wool mat is such a time saver, it's unbelievable. But I will suggest state is, if you are going to use steam quite a lot, you do need a piece of wood underneath it, because if you've got laminated tables and you've got like a bit missing off the laminate, you will find once the steam gets through the mat and into the laminate, your laminate on your table will start doing that. And I found that out by personal experience over there in my other sewing area. So now if you're in the UK, these mats are only about, I think they're about £11 from eBay. There is some more expensive brands out there, I'm not going to lie, there is some really expensive brands out there, but they get them all made at the same manufacturers. So if you want the link to the mat, I will put that in the group afterwards. Right, so I've just top stitched all the way around that, and I'm just going to top stitch around this one, doing exactly the same, 1/8 of an inch away, using a stitch length number 3. I'm not 100% about that. They say if you can make it a large thickness, then I can't see a problem. You can cut that coat or use the coat. But you got to make sure it's cashmere though. Cashmere shrinks, doesn't it? See, this is actual proper lamb because it has got a bit of a pungent smell. So yeah, but I will put the link for this so you guys can have a look at where to buy it from in the UK. Right, so I've now sewn all the way around those. You've got to work out which is going to be your best side of both of them. So obviously, because my B's on the one side, I'm just going to use that as my correct side. So that's going to be classed as my right side. And that B's further away and that one's in the centre, so I'm going to class that as my right side as well. You're going to get the outer pieces that you've put the fusible fleece on. So you're going to get both of those parts. And as you probably can guess, the small one marries up with the small outer piece, and the larger piece marries up with the larger piece. So what I'm going to do is find the centre of this straight edge here. So I'm just going to fold that in half. Oh, I'm just going to make sure my fleece is not overlapping, because we want it a straight edge. Yeah, the smell does go. I've had that about a year now and the smell is going. So I'm just cutting a little snip into where the seam allowance will be, so I know where the centre is. Then I'm just going to do the same with this edge here. So and then just do the same with these two pieces. So that's this long edge here. Find the centre and just give it a snip. And then I'm just going to find the centre of this edge here. Okay. What we're going to do is pop the wrong side of this small flap to the right side of this flap here, and we're going to match up those two centres and clip into place. And just make sure you've got equal amount of distance on both sides, and remember that this part here is the wrong side. The wrong side is going to the right side of this. Yep, and then you're going to do exactly the same with these two pieces. So it's the wrong side to the right side. And then you've got equal distance either side. Now I'm just going to stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge on both of these, just to base stitch these into place. Yeah, I love my wall mat. When I say base stitch, I'm just putting it up to the highest stitch length. So on this machine it's a number 5, and I'm doing 1/8 of an inch away. I'm not even reversing my stitch either, because it's going to be locked in. And then just do the same with this one. Yeah, you have to watch where you place it down onto it. Yeah, you really do, because the steam comes through and then obviously it clogs up water, and then obviously that water gets under certain things, and especially if you've got a nice oak table that you put it on or something like that, it can really damage it. So the next thing we're going to do is Now I need these measurements. So these two key measurements you'll need to know. So what we're doing is, as you can see, this long flap, this bit here. So, for instance, we're working on the long piece at the moment. This flap here, which is this piece here, moves around quite a lot. So what you need to do is we need to anchor it down a bit here. So I'm measuring from the top here, which is the straight edge here, down, and I'm going to draw a line at 4.5 inches, a line across, and then we're going to anchor this down by doing a row of stitches across. So that's the first one. You might want to do 2 rows of stitches, so I'm going to do 2 rows of stitches, 4.5 inches down. I'm using a friction pen. I know I can get away with it on this panel because it's light fabric, but if you're using dark fabrics, I would use just like a chalk marker. Okay. Just popping a pin in that section there, and you can see I've drawn a line. I'm just going to stitch just between this flap here, so from this edge to this edge, reversing my stitch, and I'm probably just going to do 2 rows of stitches there, so one on the line and then just one just above it, 1/4 inch away from that line. I'm going to knock my stitch length down to a number 3. Oh, thank you. I'm still getting used to, right, so for those who are new, my camera used to be on the side, so I used to talk like this. I'm still getting used to the camera being there. It's a bit awkward. Now, the older members, not old people, the older members will know that my husband is now sitting and working. He's not there at the moment, he's booked a day off today, but because having to work from home, he is taking over my sewing area. So this is what I'm working on, is actually the kitchen table. So we have our meals now on the sofa, which I hate. I really do. I like to have the meals on the kitchen table, but they've got to get used to it. If he wants to work from home, he's got to cater for me. So, and I need a lot of space. Right, so I'm just reversing my stitches and sewing over that line. What table? The kitchen dining room table. Right, so most of you would already know this. Our apartment is mainly open plan, apart from the bedrooms and the bathroom. So my office, my sewing area, the dining room, the kitchen, the living room are all one big massive room, and so we all basically live in this one big room, and so we call it the kitchen dining room table because it's just wherever it needs to be on that day. It's now called my sewing table. We don't eat on it now, Susan, really don't, but there's no gravy on it or anything like that. Right, so I'm just going to remove that pin and show you what I've just done. So I've just sewn 2 rows of stitches. I'm just going to get rid of that line. So I've just done 2 rows of stitches. Now if you wanted to, you've been left with this where you can put your hand through. You can actually go one step further and sew from the top down to those sewn lines. So basically when you do draw that line on, you can actually start from here, sew down, across and up, and then do that second line. For quickness today, I'm not going to sew that on. I'm just going to leave it with a gap, especially if you're like diabetic, because some people have a little machine that they measure their glucose reading. they can put their little machine in that little gap if they wanted to as an extra pocket, or one step further, you can sew across that bottom edge there, leave that top part, and then it is like a little slip pocket. So an extra slip pocket, extra pocket. Right, so on this one we are going to measure down from this edge and draw a line 1 inch down. So I'm just going to do that. And once again, we're just going to sew across, but this time you probably only need, because it's only a small flap, you only need to do one sewn line. So I have to keep tidying up because I've got all the stuff out and I start getting a bit claustrophobic, so please get used to that. I'm quite a clean sewer. I don't have clutter around. That's probably why my bags take 10 times longer to make. Right, so I'm just going to trim off those thread pieces. So okay. I'm the same. No, I find I can't. Right, I'm off 2 hours ahead. Yeah. Yeah, I can't work around clutter. This video will be on catch up anyway, so don't worry, you can catch it up, and the second sew along will be on Monday, so you can leave whenever. Right, so I'm just going to stitch the crotch across there, and then I'm going to just remove that line. Yeah, Karen. Right, so we've now got these two pieces. We're going to pop these right sides together, marrying up key areas. So I will show you in a minute. Just let me. Right, so the key areas that I'm going to marry up is making sure the wrap on both sides match up there and there, and making sure the edges marry up as well. I'm just going to clip a few there. This is a free pattern, so it's just a follow along. So in the status above the video is a blog, which I printed off here. So it's a blog. So if you go to Blogger, type in RJF Makes, and then all the cutting out measurements are on this, and then it's just the follow along, you sew along to this video. A lot of my sew alongs are based like that within this group. Right, so I've just married up those. I don't like clutter. I always put things away, especially after. Yep, me too. This setup stays, but like the table has to be clean. But like my studio lights have to stay out and stuff because they're a pain to pack away. Right, so I'm just going to stitch down this line here, this row here, and we're going to stitch using a stitch length 2.4. and it's 1/4 inch away. Now where you'll notice there is a bit of thickness when you come to where the wrap starts, reverse your stitch a bit, and then just basically to lock that area into place. And then when you're coming off the wrap, just reverse your stitch a bit as well. Only after I finish making, sometimes run out of space. Yeah, Susan, I can't do that, especially like at my main studio at my parents' house where I do all my my leather work. I can't do that. I really do need to tidy up. Right, okay, if we are right, so what we're going to do now is open this up and just give that a bit of a press. But I'm going to press from this side, and I'm just going to pop a lot of steam so it will basically flatten out that bit there. Right, so that's actually really flattened that out at the back, that bulky seam. We're going to pop this to one side, and then the next thing we're going to do is get the two lining pieces. So that's your lining top and bottom. Marry up right sides together and sew down that straight edge. Both of these are interfaced as well. And we're going to sew 1/4 inch, just like before. Talk about multitasking. Right, so I've sewn those together. I'm just going to press this seam open, so that's both seams need to be open like this. So I always finger press that first to pop it open a bit. Move those scissors. Does everybody like my new scissors? My lovely flamingo ones. Right, so you got to remember this part here, the smaller part of the lining, is what we class as the bottom piece. So I'll turn it that way. So that's classed as the bottom piece, this is classed as the top piece. Just keep remembering that. If we are facing up, I am very untied. My work area looks like a bomb site. Oops. Right, so I'm popping that to one side. I'm just going to move on to the zip part here. So I'm using a number 3 zip, a continuous one, so it's off the roll. Mine's a bit longer than 8 inches. Also, you'll notice on the top of the zip is a little piece of fabric here with the mice on. That's what I've done, is some binding. So it's straight of grain binding, so it doesn't have to be on the bias. So straight of grain, for anybody that's new to sewing and what's bias. Bias is where it's at a 45 degree, it's cut on your fabric at a 45-degree angle and it has a stretch. The straight of grain binding is where you can cut it straight from that way, basically. You can cut it that way. And that has no stretch. So it's just straight of grain, no interfaced. And the way I pressed this was I folded it in half, wrong sides together, so you got half a strip. Then I opened that up, got the two long sides, brought those into the centre and gave that a press. And then I folded it over again and gave that a press, and now I'm left with a really slim piece. So we're going to get that piece of binding first and the zip. We're going to work on that bit first. Now you can pin or glue base this. I use something called quilter's tape or basting tape or wash away tape. It's all the same thing, or wonder tape. So I'm using some of this. So what I'm doing is, where the two long edges meet into the middle, I'm just going to run a piece of tape on this side here and a piece of tape on this side here. So this tape is designed for sewing machines. So if you are to sew over the tape, the glue won't go into the mechanism underneath. And the reason why it's called wash away tape is eventually it will wash away if you have to wash the product that you are making. Obviously don't wash it if you're using cork or PU, but you could wash this if you're using a it's called Becky tape. Yeah, so new members, you'll get used to it. I use this all the time. So that you can see I've run tape on the wrong side, so obviously that's the wrong side and that's the right side. I've run tape down the two long sides. I'm going to peel back this tape here, this bottom one here. And I've cut my nails this morning. Then I'm going to get my zip. So you know which is the right side and which is the wrong side. This is the right side, the one with the actual pull on. This is the wrong side. We're going to go from the wrong side and stick that into place. So, like so. So I've stuck that into place, like so. Then I'm going to peel off that other backing tape and fold it over so it's stuck up on the zip. I'm just making sure that's straight. Make sure your zip is actually straight. My zip isn't, so I'm just going to readjust that. There you go. So it's stuck on, and there is no zip that's raw. You don't want no raw edges. I love that sticking the zip. It's so easy and it doesn't move, and it will stay put until you've actually sewn it into place. So the first, we're going to sew this a row of stitches 1/8 of an inch away from the folded edge closest to the zip coil. Now you can put your zipper foot on, but I'm just going to wing it and just basically leave my walking foot on. And I'm using a stitch length 2.4, and I'm about 1/8 of an inch away, give or take, from that folded edge, as close as I am to the zip coil. Okay, so I'm basically sewing it there, and making sure I've caught it on both sides. If you haven't caught it on both sides, you can actually do a second row up 1/4 of an inch, just to give it that extra robustness. But I've caught mine all the way, so I'm not going to. So we're now going to just pop this to one side and grab your 2 pieces for your zip pocket. Now you've got to work out which is your better fabric and which is going to be your outer fabric. So this is going to be my outer fabric. So I have fused interfacing on the back of this one, but for the lining piece I've just left it no interfacing whatsoever. And then on one of the right one, which is the one that's going on the outer side, which is this one here, I'm going to run quilter's tape along the top edge here. Thank you, LJ. Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. Yeah, really well. Busy, but yeah. Right, so I've just ran some quilter's tape along that edge. And then I'm just going to get my lining piece, work out which is my top edge or my bottom edge. I'm going to use this as my top edge, and I'm just going to run a bit of quilter's tape along that edge as well. If I have missed any questions, don't worry. I'm just at the end. I will quickly flick through the comments and see if I need to answer any questions. Right, so I've ran tape along that. Glad to hear. Thanks, LJ. Yeah, you can, LJ, don't worry what time you come in to the videos, so we'll stay in the group, and then like I explained earlier on, the 2 sew along videos I will be joining together as one long video, and then be putting it on YouTube later next week. Right, so we're going to get the zip and the one that's got the interfacing on, peel off the backing of that tape We're going to get the zip, and where the zip pull, we're going to pop this on, and I'll show you what I'm doing. I'm going. Right, so my binding is longer than my actual pocket, that's fine, and we will be trimming this down later. So what I've done is taken my zip, popped the right side of my zip, which is the one with the pull, to the right side of my outer fabric, and married the zip top, the zip side, to the actual top edge of the actual pocket. Now we're going to get the lining piece, peel off the backing tape. Then we're going to flip this over. So now we're going to get the wrong side of the zip and pop this down onto the actual lining on the right side, making sure the edges all match up. Like so. So now my zip is sandwiched between them. So what I'm going to do now is sew 1/4 of an inch away from this edge all the way along, and then I'm going to leave it as it is and sew this edge 1/4 of an inch, reversing my stitches at the start and at the end. So I'm using a stitch length 2.4 again. You can use your zipper foot, but I'm a bit lazy when it comes to my zipper foot, so. That's my teacher background, so I used to, yeah, that's the teacher background in me. But I also like to explain it as a beginner, and my patterns, when you buy, like, so one of my sewing patterns, when you buy one of my sewing patterns, I teach you step by step and explain it as I would see it as a beginner, because I personally have brought patterns in the past and they said they're beginner friendly and they really weren't beginner friendly. And that's not just bag patterns, that's any type of pattern. And like some quilt patterns that I've brought in the past, because I'm a quilter as well, I basically wanted my patterns to be just for beginners, and they can have a bag that looks like someone that's advanced sewer is sewing it. Right, so I've sewn down both sides. What I'm going to do now is open up this hole here and turn it right side facing out. No background music, no. Right, so, and then what you will find is this end here, the one without the zip, you need to roll it. So when I say rolling it, and when you're rolling it, it means that you're crushing the bulk a bit before you have to press it. And it also means that you're getting the whole seam pointing out. So we're going to go to the iron and just give this a really good press so it's flat and neat. Right, so LJ, you're saying you don't do patterns. All my patterns that I sell have step-by-step videos, and those videos are free. So before you buy the pattern, you can actually go over to YouTube and watch the videos to see if you'll be able to make those bags. It's just basically something you can listen to or while you're sewing, but every step of the bag patterns, every bag pattern that I design has got a YouTube video, sew along video. Just drove over a pothole. Oh yeah, because you're travelling, can't you, Lynn? Lynn, Susan, Princess, Emma and Michael are all my admin. So yeah, they pop in every so often, and Lynn is travelling back because she went to visit her mum. Right, so we're going to sew here, and we're going to sew 1/8 of an inch away. We're not going to sew this edge yet. And I'm using a stitch length number 3. Right, so the next thing I'm going to do is pull my zip pull in and just sew across this area here so I don't lose the zip pull. Now, if you're using metal teeth on your zip, I try my hardest to tell people never to use metal zips. You can get nylon zips now that look like metal. Tony, new iron, pink. Yeah, I wanted the Onslow one, but no, I can't afford that yet. And yeah, but if they're willing to sponsor me, if you're watching, you can sponsor me. But yeah, so if you're a beginner, don't use metal zips. Stay away from metal zips. Use nylon zips. But you can get nylon zips that have got that metal looks like a metal finish. Yeah, like this one here. So that looks like a metal finish. It isn't. It isn't metal. That's plastic. So that's nylon. And same with the pull. Looks like a nice finish. So yeah. Right, so I've sewn over that bit, so my zip pull won't come off. I'm just going to sew over this bit here. I'm not one of those people to ask. Ask my admin, I don't ask, apart from get them to pattern read for me and proofread. Right, so I need to make sure the zip and the binding are the same width as this. So I'm just going to trim back this bit here and this bit here to match up this bit here. So use some old scissors for this. And any loose thread that you've got. Just snip that off. You don't want that in the seams or anything. Right, so this is going to be the last part of this today's sew along, and then on Monday I will carry on making. So what we need to do is, just need to look at my notes, sorry. Right, so we need to make some marks on this. So remember, this part is your bottom part. This part here is your top part. So from the part at the bottom, you need to measure up first 4.5 inches. And I've put my pen down somewhere. There it is. Susan, we try. You do a really good job. All you girls do. One, two, three, 4.5. So what I've done is just popped 2 marks on either side. This part is for my elastic pocket, so this is for this part. From those 2 marks there, I'm going to measure up 1 inch on both sides. Oh. 1 to 1 inch. Okay. Right, so I've measured up 1 inch on both sides. So the second mark is where we're going to put the actual zip pocket on. So the bottom edge here of the zip pocket will line up with the 2 marks that you've just drawn. So I'm just going to pop some clips in and then I'll show you. Right, so those were my first marks. I've now gone up 1 inch and now I've put the zip pocket there. So the next thing we're going to do is stitch across this zip pocket at the bottom. I'm going to do 2 rows of sewn lines, top stitching shall I say, and first row is 1/8 of an inch away from the actual zip pocket edge. Then I'm going to move up and do 1/4 of an inch sewn line, and then I'm going to sew just along the top here of the binding so it's now a closed pocket, using a stitch length number 3 on my sewing machine, and I'm reversing my stitches at the start and at the end. And I'm just moving my row of stitches up 1/4 of an inch away from the folded edge. And then I'm just going to flip this round and stitch the top edge. Now, because I'm coming to where my zip pull is, I'm making sure my needle is down, lifting up my presser foot and moving that pull out the way to the back, and then just dropping my presser foot down and then carry on sewing. Okay guys, okay. Thank you. I'd just like to be helpful. Right, so the zip pocket is sewn together. What you can do is base stitch down these 2 sides. So I'm just going to knock my stitch length up to a number 5 and just base those sides down. I'm not going to reverse my stitches, don't need to. I'm going to move my zip pull into the centre and sew down that one as well. Right, so today we have made the outer and started the lining. On Monday we will do the actual slip pocket, the elasticated slip pocket, and then we will sew it together, and then I'll teach you how to do the binding. So yeah, thank you ever so much. Right, so I'm just going to go through the questions quickly and see if there's any questions that I missed. Oh my god, there's loads of right, so I don't think I missed any. I'm just going through. Nope, I haven't missed any, so that's quite good for me. So I haven't missed any, so I will actually go through, just double check at the end of this video and see. For those of you who have joined my Patreon group, my elite group, thank you ever so much. I'm going to show you guys what the free pattern is for the Patreons. So if you wanted to join my Patreon club, which is an online sewing club, the sewing club, basically I do extra tutorials, and they get a pattern, a free pattern, and if you're a VIP member you'll get a bi-monthly free panel. This is the pattern that they're making this month. Well, it's actually start of next month when they actually start it, but it's actually a makeup bag. So it's got a, oops, wrong way around, it's already got my makeup in it, but it's got a brush section, a zip pocket here, and a large bag here, which obviously you keep all your makeup in. I keep all my makeup in. And we're going to be making this on 2 sew-alongs, plus there is a video, not a video, a pattern that they can print out and keep. So yeah, any questions, please do ask. Yeah, so the next sew-along for this bag is, for this pouch, is on Monday at 1:30 within this group. So yeah, thanks ever so much, and I'll see you all on Monday. Bye! Right, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. First of all, I need to apologise for Friday's live. Whoever watched it live and obviously watched it back. My head's chopped off, and I know someone said something, but then we worked out, hi Wendy, we now worked it out that the tripod was in the wrong position, so we've now corrected it. So I'm hoping that no one has got chopped off head Becky here. So right, hi, there's loads of highs. Right, so on Friday we left off with making the lining, finishing off making the lining, and we did the inside zip pocket. For those who are joining on and didn't see what happened on Friday, we're making the little medical pouch that I've put a blog post on the top of this video, and it's just basically so you can organise your hand sterilizer, and like put a mask in there, a spare mask if you need to, hand cream, and then this is where I personally keep all my medication in for when I go out. It's just basically a nice little wrap, but someone has already made it and they said they're not going to be making it as a wrap, they're making it as a hello, hope you're okay. Right, so some people have made it for likes of putting just a few sewing items in to do some hand sewing when they go away on holiday or just pop out for the day. So it's a nice pouch to make for that as well. So it's not just a medical pouch or anything like that. One woman even said, oh, you can keep folded up a nappy in there and some baby wipes in a plastic bag in there, and then basically you got something just for taking out rather than carrying a big baby's bag when you go out and about. So it's durable. Right, so on Friday, which is a video within the group, and then after this live video I'm joining both videos together and then putting it on YouTube for you guys. On Friday we made the outer part and we started making the inner part. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and if I miss them because I can't see your I'm pointing at the camera, yes, you right, so I can't see any of the actual messages come up on the screen. They're actually down here. So first of all, I apologise having to avert my eyes down here where the screen is so I can read all your messages. And if I do miss any questions, don't worry, I will answer those after the live, or I see my admin have dropped in, Lynn, she or someone could answer for you if I miss it. So once again, I do apologise. Right, so the first thing we're going to go from is making the slip pocket, the elasticated slip pocket. Okay, so my lining and my outer fabric are the same. One is interfaced. I have a question. What chocolate is best to go with gin? Well, I don't drink gin, but I've just had chocolate cake. Devil's chocolate cake. It was full of gooey chocolate centre. So yeah. Can I make this with a couple of fat cord? Yeah. Laurie, yeah, definitely. Mix and match it. Even if you've got scrap fabric left over from past projects, sew them together. This is just basically what I call, well, this is all leftover fabric from other bits and pieces of projects that I've accumulated over the last few months. So yeah, so you can basically sew it together with whatever. Right, go into the elastic pocket. You got two pieces. One is interfaced and one isn't interfaced. We're going to pop these right sides together. And we're going to sew down one long edge, just one long edge. I'm using a stitch length 2.4, and like last time, I've got my walking foot on. Any type of chocolate is good. Yeah. I got my walking foot on, and I've got a size 14 needle in. And we're using a seam allowance of 1/4 inch. I'm going to lock my stitch at the start and at the end. The machine that I'm using is a Elna Pro 720, but you can make this little pouch on any machine basically. Lo, I'm a dark chocolate person as well. I love dark chocolate. Right, so I'm just going to press this open. And once again. So I'm going to basically pop it right side facing out and give this a right good press. Right, so now I've pressed this completely right side facing out on both sides. I'm going to top stitch 1/2 inch away from this edge, all the way down here, keeping the stitch length at 2.4, and reverse your stitch at the start and at the end. This is oh, see, Margaret, I'm not a Bourneville chocolate fan. I like hotel chocolate, which is not around much now. Yeah. What other ones? I like the new Galaxy Dark. Yeah, yeah. Dark chocolate all the way. So I'm reversing my stitches at the start and at the end. Right, so for the pattern, it calls for a 8-inch piece of elastic. Us Brits call this knicker elastic, which is a bit rude. Sorry, but it's I'm using 4mm wide one, and I'm just going to get a safety pin, which I've got some tape on. Just bear with me. Right, so as you can see, I've got some tape on mine, is because when you feed a safety pin through and your safety pin's quite short, it means that you can't always feel it properly, and I'm just hoping that will fit through the channel. So I'm just going to feed it through that channel, and I can. I'm making sure that the tape's really old and it's gone a bit bulky, so there you go. All chocolate makes me sick. Oh no, oh no. I must admit, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm actually not a much... So if there's chocolate or packet of crisps going, I'll be the person that goes for the packet of crisps, but I must admit I'm not a really overly sweet person. That's better. Right. Yeah, I do that for, I can't get it in, just bear with me. Hemlock Balkans, yeah, I must admit, Lynn, I've not got one, but my mum has, and I must admit I should go around there and nick it off her. You're savoury too, I agree, I wouldn't. Let me just get this sellotape off. I haven't actually done 1/2 inch. Yeah, low, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, also some machines don't have guides on it, so use your rule, quarters rule. I'm just getting this sellotape off. Becky needs to get one. Yeah, I'm going to go round to my mum's and nick hers. I'm not going to buy one if I know a family member's got one. No, Lynn, it's not cheap as chips when someone else has got one. Right, that's better. Right, okay. So I'm just popping this through, but you got to be careful, like you don't lose where the elastic comes. So I'm just feeding this through, and then what I'll do is the clip that I've got here, I'm going to... Do you know what, Emma? I was just thinking of getting some for my shop. So if anybody doesn't know, I've got an online shop, rgfmakes.com. No. So it's www.etsy.com/shop/rjfmakes. Had to think then. Hopefully one of my admin will put that into the group. Right, so I basically put a clip on the end so I don't lose my elastic into the pocket. I'm going to get this, and do you remember where we left off? I made a mark here and a mark there, and same on this side as well. We're going to clip from this mark down one short side. So if I show you what I'm talking about, without losing that elastic. Thank you, Emma. Yeah, Emma, remind me when I come off live that I need to order some for the shop, because obviously I can't nick my mum's because it would be leave my mum without one, and then I'll get some from the shop as well. Right, so I have clipped the top with the elastic on this side here, and it's basically where that first mark I drew on Friday is. Now I'm just going to clip down the one side. and clip a bit on the bottom. Okay, so we need to pull this elastic tight, but first off what I'm going to do is just run a row of stitches down this one side just to base stitch that elastic into place. And when I sew it, I'm sewing from the wrong side, so that's the lining wrong side. And I'm going to run a few stitches, keep running a few stitches back and forwards over where that elastic bit is. Forget about the curved circle at the bottom, the edge at the moment. We're not worried about that. We're worried about making the pocket the right size. Right, so I've just sewn that in. So I've just space stitched it and ran some stitches over the elastic. And don't worry about this bit at the moment. We will trim this back once we've got the pocket into shape. So the next thing you're going to do is pull the elastic. Oh no. I'm just going to unpick something. My elastic has come undone. See, we all make mistakes. Right, so start again. If that happens, all you have to do is just unpick that where the elastic bit is. Okay, right, feed this through again. Sorry about this. Right. Yellow. I made a mistake. Okay. I do need a bobbin. Do you know what? I've only ever used a bobbin once, and that was on Sewing Quarter. And I said on Sewing Quarter I'll get one, and I still haven't got one. Right, just remember not to pull this through. Right, cut it. Right, so I'm just going to seal that bit of elastic into place. Sorry. Okay. Just noticed my thread, yes, low, I said thread, is going to run out. Right, so I'm going to pull my elastic and I'm going to pull it so the pocket is enough elastic so it's springy, but not too gathered, if you understand where I'm trying to come from. So, because we're going to have to pleat it at the bottom anyway. So I have pulled about around about 1.5 inches out of elastic out. I'm just going to clip that into place. So I've basically pulled 1.5 inches out. I'm going to sew down this end side now, and I think my thread is going to run out. see how far we can get. So I've been making masks all weekend for some family members that didn't have any or don't have any. Making masks, had to unpick, got the filter pocket. Yeah, I had a bad weekend for sewing things wrong too, Margaret, so you're not the only one. Right, so you should be left with like a gap. So what we're going to do is just find the centre of the pocket, like so. And then I'm just basically going to crease it. So I'll show you again. Thread. Right, so basically I pinch it like this. So I pinch it like that, bring it down to the edge, and then flatten this bit off. So I'll do that down here, and then you can see what I'm talking about. As you can see, it's made two kind of boxy pleats here. So we're going to just clip those to the edge. Who's happy birthday in, people? I haven't sewn since Mum died. Oh, Lo, yeah, I think I'll message you after this. Yeah, I'm sorry about you losing your mum. Yeah, it's hard, but sewing can get you out of things. But you make your jewellery, so, and I know you've got back into the swing of making jewellery now, so. Right, so I've clipped across there, and what I'm going to do is just sew from this side across, so it locks that those two pleats into place. Now. I'm just running a few extra stitches over the pleated areas. Right, so now you're left with the two corner pieces. We need to trim these off to where the actual corner is of the lining. So let's get my fabric scissors. Okay, so I've trimmed it back, and then you're just going to just quickly stitch around these two corners. Right, so some of you said they like to keep a book. Some people keep tabs of what tablets have taken at what time and stuff like that. So the next step that I do, hi Jenny, hope you're resting that foot. The next step that I actually do is going to be for those that don't want to store a book in here and want to store like hand sterilizer and stuff. This just helps it from stopping from falling out. So what we're going to do is just make sure the elastic is more stretched out a bit, and then from the two sides, from these two sides on the elastic area, we're going to measure in 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch here and draw two lines. So And then you're just going to sew 2 lines, one on the mark and then one just over, and then basically, and you're going to do that on both sides. That will stop anything that you're storing in there from falling out. If you're holding a book in there, like for keeping tabs on what medicine that you've taken that day, you don't need to do this step. So I'm just basically sewing about 1/2 inch. I'll show you once I've done it. So I've just sewn over the mark. I'm moving my presser foot about 1/4 inch in from that mark and just sewing another line. I'm just sewing 2 lines because it's extra precaution, especially if you have got hand sterilizer that's quite bulky. So let me just Right, so I don't know if you can pick this up on the camera, but there is 2 stitches, 2 rows of stitches here and 2 rows of stitches here. I haven't really gone anywhere past the elastic where the sewn line is for the elastic channel. So the next thing we're going to do is get the outer piece, and you remember this long flap. What we're going to do is just fold it back upon itself and pin that into place so it doesn't get in the way of anything. Okay, then you've got to remember this is the bottom piece, which is the longer piece. So I'm going to pop those 2 together and popping those wrong sides together, matching up the edges, and we're going to clip all the way around. Well, Lo, you know that I don't drink alcohol, and my hand sterilizer is an alcohol-free one, but the bottle's massive, and it's not like gel, it's like a foam, but it doesn't harm your hands. Yeah, because some of them are really, people's hands are getting a bit wrecked. Right, so I'm just clipping all the way around, or pin, depending on what you want to use. Right, before I go any further, I'm just going to change my thread, so just bear with me. Can't believe I didn't look at this before I started. Okay, so I'm just loading it up with some new Gutermann thread, and this is Gutermann Sew All thread. Now I can't use the needle threader on this machine because the little pins broke. I've ordered a new one, broke at the weekend, so I've got to manually thread, which I'm not used to, but there you go, I've done it. It's cost me £12 for this little pin from Janome. £12! Ordered it this morning. I think I'm paying for the name. Right, I'm just going to check to make sure that's working properly. Yep. Right, so now I've clipped it all the way around. What I'm going to do is base stitch about 1/8 of an inch away all the way around, but I'm actually going to sew from the front side, the outer side, and also make sure my zip pull is in the center somewhere, not on the outside, because you don't want a broken needle. Right. Just doing approximately 1/8 of an inch away. I'm making my stitch length for number 5. Now if you find you got a bit of overhang from the lining, don't worry, we'll trim that back. If anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Oh, lost the live. Now let's get rid of some of these clips. Right, okay. Right, so I've base stitched all the way around, and there is a little bit of overhang of lining, but I can get away with that. I'm going to take this pin out for now. Okay, and basically we're going to pop this to one side and move over to making the bias binding. So I've gone ahead and made the bias binding already. Is the pattern available? It's actually not a pattern, it's a cutting out blog post, which is attached to the actual video, and then basically you have to follow the 2 videos to actually make the bag. It's so simple. To be fair, some people have already made it, they've worked out how it works anyway. So right, so I've made my binding, but I'm just going to show you a simple way of making binding. So the binding that you need to make is bias binding, which is the 45-degree angle of when you cut it out of your fabric. And basically you can't sew these 2 together like straight on. So if you've got your strips of binding, you can't sew them straight on. You have to sew them at an angle. So what we do is let's put this towards you. We basically do an L shape. Obviously this is upside down. And then what I do is from this corner here, I sew down diagonal to this corner here without reversing. So I'll just go and do that and I'll show you. I'm doing a stitch length 2.4. You can draw this line on if you wanted to, your sewn line, but I've made quite a lot of bias binding. Margaret, have you lost us? Lost me? Come back into the actual video. So what I've done is sewn that diagonal across, as you can probably not see it, and then from this side up I'm going to trim 1/4 of an inch away. So basically you're left with 1/4 of an inch here away from your sewn line, and then what we're going to do is take it to your iron, press this seam open. So just take it to the iron. Obviously I'm not using this binding because I've already made my binding. Okay, so you go and basically press that seam open. The next thing you need to do is I don't keep losing myself on my phone, so I'm wondering if it is your end. You're going to press it in half, wrong sides together, matching up the 2 long sides, and you're going to press the whole strip. So you're going to sew all your strips together and then press it so it's like this. You're going to open this back up, and these 2 long sides we're going to bring into the center and press. And the reason why this has to be bias binding is because the corners, the 4 corners that we have produced on the actual pouch. So let me just so basically you got some bias binding, and your now folded bias binding is in the center. That is your bias binding ready to use on the actual bag. So I've gone and sewn all my strips together and done that way. So the thing we're going to do is get the case, and we're going to sew from the, what I'm going to call this the wrong side, so that's the inside is the wrong side. We're going to start round about here, so we've got a straighter area, and I'll show you what I'm about to do. It is, and I must admit, when I have free time, which isn't much lately, any scrap pieces of fabric, I actually cut on the 45 degree and basically make bias binding. This top shelf here, which you can't really see, is full of bias binding or quilt binding, because you never know when you need it for a project. Right, so I've started off and I've got an overhang of about 5 inches here. We're not going to be bothered about this one here. And what I actually do is open up the binding, so the binding is right side facing to the wrong side, to the inside, to the right side of the inside. And basically I'm opening up just this one side of the binding and matching up the edge. Now I'm going to do the clip all the way around until I get too close to where the start was. Right, so just talk amongst yourselves. Free time, what's that? Yeah, I don't have much free time at the moment, which is good because I start thinking about what's going on in the world and stressing, so it's best not to. It's just best to occupy. Can see some comments, but not you sewing. Margaret, come out of the video and then go into the group and then reselect the live again and see what happens. But to be fair, it's recording at the same time, so I can basically I'll be putting it on YouTube anyway. Is anybody else having the same problem, or is it just one person? Click on the side view, the V at the bottom. Is that to me? I'm so confused. Easily confused these days. It's old age. Right, I'm just going around the corners. Because it's on the bias, it's easily going round the actual corner itself. Thanks, honey. Thanks. Right. Just going around the last corner, and then I'm going to stop clipping on that last corner, just after that last corner, shall I say. Now I've made more bias binding than I actually need. I just had some, nice black and white polka dot lining, so I'm just going to trim some of this off now because obviously that's going to get in my way. Okay, let's put you there because save you. Right, so I've stopped clipping around about here and I've left an overhang here and an overhang here. I'm just going to pin those or clip those together just so they don't get in the way. Right, so I'm going to start sewing about here. So that's about an inch underneath where the zip is. And I'm going to sew all the way around and finish just after that curve. I'm going to sew where the actual crease is on the binding. So the crease nearest the edge is where I'm going to sew. And I'm going to use a stitch length 2.4 because obviously we've got some curved corners to go around. I'm reversing my stitch at the start and I will be doing the same at the end. And when I do come to the corners, I might have to keep pivoting my, keeping my needle down and pivot and taking it slow so it keeps that neat corner basically. And I'm just moving the pouch as I go around that corner. Now, some people are saying they're going to be using cork fabric or a bit like what I used, but they're not confident of finishing off the binding by the machine, so they're going to hand sew it. So if that's the case, if you're going to use cork fabric or PU on the outside, you need to sew the binding on the outside first rather than sewing it on the inside, and then you can hand sew finish it at the end because you've got proper fabric for it to sew through, not PU or cork. Just coming around the last corner now, just making sure I've caught everything. Right, so I'm going to stop around about 1/2 inch away from that corner at the end. And I'm going to reverse my stitch. Okay, so I'm going to, now if you're a quilter, some people like to sew this together, but because this is quite a short area, I'm going to slightly fold it over and then just put the raw edge inside. So I'm just going to basically trim back the first piece to about 1.5 inches away from where that first reverse sewn line starts. About 1.5 inches. Then you're going to just fold the binding, open up the binding and fold it back upon itself about 1/2 inch. You can press that if you want to. So I'm just going to finger press mine. It keeps bouncing back, so I'm going to have to basically iron. Use the iron. Right, so I've basically just folded it back by 1/2 inch. I've opened up the binding completely as well and done that. And then we're going to, if I just do this part and then show you. I'm going to overlap the raw edge of the last part of the binding over by about 1 inch, 1.5 inches over onto that binding here. And I'm just going to clip all this into place on the side first. Got cork left from my project. Do you think it's too thick? No, no, because I used cork on this and I used fleece. So with cork and with PU, you're still going to have to fleece it out, especially if you're, and I know some people's diabetic machines aren't small, so they won't fit in here, the blood sugar readers, but like some of my mum's is quite a micro small one, and hers fits in that little pouch at the bottom or in the zip pouch. But the cork, you still need to basically use fusible fleece for instruments like your blood sugar reading little machines and stuff. But it won't be too thick. What you can do is, if you are finding it too thick, and I know Margaret, you've made a few of my patterns, is trim back the fusible fleece by 1/4 inch all the way around. Then it won't be too thick. Right, so I basically overlapped the binding, so you can see that I've overlapped it, and then I'm just going to carry on sewing all the way down here. Sorry if you can hear the squeaky floor, my husband's just walked in. He's obviously forgotten something. So we live in an old-fashioned place, and it's really squeaky floors, so I feel sorry for the neighbours downstairs. Right, so I've sewn that together. So the next thing we're going to do is fold this over to the right side of the actual pouch. Is he naked again? No. John will be here in a flash if he could. John loves Michael. Never asks how I'm doing. He always asks how the Ginger Ninja's doing. Right, and now basically what I'm doing is just clipping the binding into place. Now, like I say, if you're a confident sewer, you can machine bind this, or you can hand stitch it. I'm going to hand stitch it at a later stage, because I've done binding on the machine before, but I'm not a confident sewer when it comes to binding, and I know a lot of you are the same. So if I just show you how I'm clipping it around. Right, so you're going to go around clipping, and then if you are confident, I did machine stitch this around, but I must admit there is places where I had to unpick and restitch, and there was quite a large bulk. I'm not going to do it on this one because this is going to be a giveaway once it's completely finished. So I'm going to hand stitch the binding to the actual case itself. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to put the snaps on. So if you just bear with me. It's right. The flap. Now if you do catch your flap, you can catch your flap, so clip it back. Don't do what I just did. Right, so I'm going to warn you now, there is a hammer involved in this, so it might damage your ears. Sorry, neighbours. Right, so the things that you can use are these type of snaps, where you got 4 components, which are the same as what I've used here on these bits, and you roll it over. Which type of hat? I use, right, so I basically run the stitch into the pouch, come up out of the pouch, then I run it slightly into the channel of the binding, so I catch into the binding and run my stitch in the binding a bit and then come out into it. So it's a bit like a ladder stitch basically, but we're going at a side angle rather than going up and down. I do in one of my videos the craft bucket, which I haven't got one here, but the craft bucket, on one of the videos on YouTube I actually sit down with the overhead camera and teach you how to actually do the just hand sew the binding onto the actual bag. So it's exactly the same. Yeah, a ladder stitch. I'm not a whip stitch girl. I only use whip stitching in EPP. So yeah, yeah. So there is a video on YouTube, and I will throw the link afterwards on the actual live video, and basically you can see, yeah, see, like I say, I'm not a whip stitch person, I'm a ladder stitch, but I'm not a whip stitch person, only when I do EPP. Apologies if someone has asked this, but can you use a magnetic closure? You can use a magnetic closure, but the thing that you need to remember is when you are making the outer part, you know, this wrap that we made on Friday, you will need to actually attach the magnetic snap there, because you don't want to see the prongs on the front. Or you can buy the magnetic snaps that you hand sew in, and they've got like 4 little circles on either side, and you can hand sew them in, and you basically can do it at this stage, what I'm going to do it at now. So the snaps that I'm going to show you are these 2 types of snaps, and I'm going to show you how to do cam snaps as well. So here I've used these snaps. These are jacket snaps, what you use on like coats and stuff. They're very robust. And then cam snaps, I use these quite a lot. I get through quite a bit, especially on little coin purses and stuff like that. These are a lot easier to install and a lot quieter to install than these ones. So if you've got neighbours that can complain, you might want to get the cam snaps. So on this, I'm going to put cam snaps on because I haven't got anything that goes nice with the bees. So, but I'm going to show you how to install these with the hammer first, and then I'll show you how to install the cam snaps. So I'm hoping that you guys can see this. Right, so with the metal snaps, if I get all the components out, and I'll show you what there is. Now these sold out really fast within my shop the other day when I posted. I have got some more on order. I think they're £6.50, I'm not 100%, £6.50, and you do get 10 in there. But then once you've got the tools, you can apparently buy the refills. So, right, so you've got this little gadget here, which is for your hammer. Then you've got these components as well. So this is for setting the female side of the actual snap. So that's like a flat disc, and this bit here, the bit that sticks out, which is towards the light, is what goes into the gadget. So you just basically clip that in, but that's not the piece that we're using first. And then this one here, it's got a little dimple, and then that squared dimple that sticks out clips into this part here as well. Then the other 2 parts is one that's got an indent in, and that's for the male part, and then you've got this one that's got like a pimple that sticks out in the disc area. This is for the male part, and we're going to set the male first. So I'm going to clip both of those pieces, tools, into the actual gadget. Pop that to one side. Then you've got this disc, and this is like a cutting out disc. You'll need to be on something really sturdy. Now this table isn't brilliantly sturdy, but I've got mine on a piece of wood, an old chopping board that I use for like punching holes, and you need this. And then this is your hole puncher. So it's got like a bit that's missing a hole at the bottom, and then there's a flat bit at the top, which is basically what you hammer onto. You get your fabric, you put your blue disc down, You put your fabric part on top and you get your hole punch and you hammer it a few times. Now this is a weighted hammer, so that's a weight, but it's also a jeweler's Plemishing hammer because they're quite weighty. So that's actually gained a hole now. Well, it's cut through both pieces. So we're going to go for the male. So the male is, now I'm hoping you can see this, the male is like a tube that sticks up on a flat piece and it's got a little hole, and then you've got like a pimple, a little small piece that's like the male part, and that's the pimple. So what you need to do is get the tube one, the one with the little hole at the back, and you poke that through both of the pieces where you've just made that hole. Right, so I've poked that through, and as you can see it's there. Then you're going to get the one that's got the pimple sticking out on the flat disc one, and you're going to pop the flat side where the hole is in over that dimple. Okay, you're going to pop that down on your mat. Then you're going to get your male part, which is the pimple part, and you're going to pop this over the tube and sit it on top. You're going to slowly fold this over so it catches that pimple. You're going to get your finger and you're going to hook that through that part there. You're going to pop the pimple. I am with the hammer. Right, so you need to do this with quite a lot of force, but not too much force that the tube goes through to the male part. It's going to be that you're going to like give it a few large taps. That's all it needs. And that is the male part set. Okay, so I'm just hoping that you can see that. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is pop the hole into the other side. So I'm just going to hammer a hole. And then we're going to change these components over. So we're going for the flat disc. So that's completely flat disc, and that's the largest piece in the hemline packs. And I've clicked that into place. And then you've got the one that's got like two little tubes sticking out either side. The fatter, that's really racist. That's really bad, Becky. The larger side, the one that's flat, needs to go into the tool. Okay, so the thing you're going to do is you've got like a cap for the female side and like a little button bit. I don't know, it's got like an inverted dimple bit. So you're going to get the cap and pop that in to that part there. So that's the larger part, that's the disc one. Then you're going to get your fabric where that hole is and pop that. So the cap has got a little tube in the center. You're going to stick that tube through that hole that you made. Then you're going to, right, so there's this part here. So this is the main thing that you need to worry about, is the inverted part. So the bit that sticks out is the bit that's your wrong side. The bit that sticks out is your wrong side. The inverted part is the right side, which is your top part. And then basically you're just going to pop that over the little tube that sticks out of the fabric. Then you're going to bring the tool over, and the little bit that sticks out of that top tube, not racist, but don't you worry, doll, that little bit that sticks out of that part will click in to the female part of the cap. And then you're just going to hammer it a few times. Remember to keep your finger inside that area. And then basically that's in place. And then you can close it. There you go. You can close it. So, but I'm not going to do this for the actual bag that I'm making. I'm going to show you how to set a cam snap. For those who are a bit worried about these, cam snaps are a lot easier to set. And I must admit, I love cam snaps. So with cam snaps, you need a special tool like this. I have got some on order. I don't actually know how much they will be yet, but I have got some on order, and I've got some cam snaps on order as well. This is what closes the cam snap, so there's no hammer involved or anything like that. Now with the cam snaps, it's still 4 pieces that you need, but 2 of the pieces are the same. So let me just get all those pieces out and I'll show you. There. Mine are all mixed up. Sometimes you can buy them where they're not mixed up. They will be snapped up. Oh, boom, boom. You'll need a tailor's awl as well. So it's something that you can poke a hole through your fabric. So you'll need 2 of these. So that's like a thumbtack. They're like 2 thumbtacks basically, and it's got a little pointy bit at the end. So this will make 1 snap. Then you'll need the female side. Got it. You'll need the female side. So which is a bit like the one before, where on the other snap where the dimple's inverted in. And then you'll need the male part, which is the dimple inverted out, but this time the dimple is basically see-through. So we're going to set it on this. Now this part is totally up to you of where you set the snaps. I didn't want to dictate where the snaps go, because it all depends on how much, let me just take that clip out, how much you're going to be storing in here. You just got to remember the small flap, not the large one. The small flap is the one that goes underneath. So that is going to be where your female sits. And then your male will go on the larger piece here. So let me just work out how I want mine filled up. So I'm going to give you my measurements. It's up to you if you actually use those measurements. So on the male side, which is the larger flap, I measured up 1 inch from the edge of the bottom small edge, and I measured 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I measured 7/8 in. So there's my dot. Right, so I measured 1 inch down and then 7/8 in, and I've made my first dot. You need to make your hole. So you're just going to poke your tailor's awl through that hole, through that, and you're going to come out the other side. Okay, now while you're here with that hole, close it all up, get your pen and just take your pen and go through that hole so it marks the other flap. Let me just get that right. That's better. So it's basically gone through to that side as well. And then we're just going to make the hole for the other side as well. So we're just going to poke the hole through. Right, so we're going to get what I call the thumbtack side, which is the little pointy side, and the flat cap. And obviously this is the front, so I'm going to put that in through that hole. So that's my large side. I've gone from the right side and I've put it through the hole here. So the next thing we're going to do is get the male part. Oh my, I keep dropping these. They're so fiddly. Right, so the male part is obviously the bit that sticks out, but on the flat side is a hole. You're going to pop that hole over where that pin comes out onto the wrong side of the flap. Then you're going to get the pliers, and you see the black bit and the plier. Yep, that's where your cap's going to sit in, and then you're just going to squeeze. And there you go, your cap is set on that one side. And then let me just set it on the other side. So with this one, on the female side, your cap will go in on the wrong side. So not the right side, the wrong side. You're going to put the cap in here, where that hole is, where I can see it. There you go. So that's on the wrong side. So that's the right, the pokey, the little pin part is coming out to the right side, and the cap is on the wrong side. Then you're going to get the female part, which is the dimple going in. There's a hole in the middle. You're going to pop that over that pin. Pop the cap into that pliers and close it off. And then basically what happens is the plier squashes down the bit that sticks, like the pin that sticks all the way through, and it basically seals that cap. And then let me just take those out. Obviously not binded properly, but that's how the snap will work. And then obviously you will repeat the same measurement on this side, and then basically finish off your bag that way. So yeah, I will do this, finish off this bag, this pouch off air. So any questions, please do ask now. Oh my god, there's so much colour here, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So please do ask any questions, and I am thinking of doing a proper overhead camera shot of doing snaps, but I just haven't had time to film it yet. So does anybody have any questions? Right, so while you're thinking of questions, the fabulous book, thank you. No, you're welcome. So the 7th of August is when the On The Go bag is out. So that's these bags. I know everybody keeps waiting for them. The patterns have gone off to the printers. So yeah. So, and there is going to be 4 panels available, and there will be 4 small panels of the same design and 4 panels of the large design. So those will go available in the pre-order on the 7th of August. I will have to make 6 of these. Now, to be fair, I love mine. I've got 2. One, this is obviously a display one, but I've got one in my bag and it keeps all my medications in and stuff like that. Hand steriliser and a spare mask if I'm out and about. And obviously, because we're using fabric masks, us sewers, and because they get moist, you need a spare one with you because you can't let it get too moist and damp and that. So yeah, so that pattern is due out on August the 7th. Have your neighbours ever complained? Mine complained about the noise of a sewing machine. Right, so I had to change my sewing machine because we had a complaint. Yeah, I agree with that question. Yeah, they have complained. There is a noise reducing mat you can get. It's a red mat. It's like, I will find the link for it. Sewing Quarter did sell it the once. It's really good. It's a noise reducing mat. It stops the shaking of the machine vibrating down into the actual the floor down below. Also, I found working on a sturdy worktop or table has helped me loads as well. Or if you're finding that it's still working, you need a heavier machine. So this is all metal, this machine, apart from this part at the front here, which is plastic. So I found out that I needed an all metal heavy machine for working in an apartment, an old-fashioned apartment here. So yeah, good question. I have had a complaint before, yeah, and it wasn't nice because I sew in the night anyway, so I can sew up to about 12 or 1 o'clock at night, and yeah, it wasn't nice and I stopped sewing. But yeah, I will post a link for the mat within the group. It's helped my friend out a lot in her apartment, so yeah. I put my earphones on so I can't hear a thing. Yeah, but they can still hear your machine. Right, so go screen. Right, play loud music when they complain and say sorry. They're so. Yeah, that's. I have a pink mat. It's very good. Yeah, if you could post the link for the pink mat within this feed, it'd be ideal, please. Yeah, we have problems with people playing live music downstairs, and especially when we've got the kids, and one's very autistic, so he doesn't quite understand why people play loud music, and yeah, so we try and not pee them off, and they pee us off. It's fine. Anyway, but most of you know that we've got loud neighbours anyway, so. The next thing is the panels will go on pre-order. The panels will go on pre-order on the 7th, and there is quite a few new designs which I've slowly been putting sneak peeks into the actual group. Now, some people have been asking me about the Patreon group, which is the subscription group. Because they've seen the pattern that they've been available. Unfortunately, this pattern, which is for the makeup roll bag, is only for subscription members only. However, there will be moderated patterns coming out to you guys. So it might be a slightly less version of this one, but it will come available, but not as in full depth, and there won't be a video for those ones either. There might be a sew along on a live, but put up a sign saying sewing stops me from being annoyed by you. Yeah, I could do. To be fair though, we're looking at a different place. We want a house, well, we want a garden. Lockdown's proved that we need a garden. It's just nice to It's just nice to go out that back door into that back garden and just have a sit down and get a bit of fresh air, rather than we have a car park and a main road and we have to walk a bit to get to where the fresh air is. So yeah, we want a house. Margaret, the next bird panel is, I'm drawing it at the moment, it's over there being drawn. It's a kingfisher, and it's on this panel release on August the 7th, and it's a kingfisher, so it's really nice. Nice and bright oranges and blues, so it's going to be so nice against the pale blue backgrounds that we've been using. Love the bee fabric. We'll definitely be buying this. Yeah, the bee fabric is coming back. The overall print we're having problems with, so the overall print one won't be available this time round, but the panels will be available this time round again. But there is some new panels available as well. So there's 2 panda designs, there's a flamingo design, there's Bella the Boston Terrier, and there's another one which is over there, which is being worked on at the moment. Yes, a garden is such a pleasure. Yeah, to be fair, I didn't know we were missing one until lockdown actually happened, so. Right, Margaret, the kingfisher panel is being designed at the moment. It will make the 7th of August panels for you guys to buy, because I know a lot of you are going to make the quilt at the end of the year with me. So yeah. You love my money. Sorry, Laurie. Yeah, I don't love money. I like to keep a roof over my head, but I just like drawing, and you all know my ambition is to be a fabric designer anyway, so yeah. Right, so I'm going to end it here. Once again, thank you ever so much. Any questions, please don't hesitate to ask, and I will basically see you all soon. I don't know when the next live will be in this group. Once I've worked it out with my husband, I will get back to you. Right, so thanks ever so much. I'll be on hold. Yeah, Margaret. Right, okay. Margaret, on the 6th, PM me, private message me. I will show you what's available. We will order those for you, and then when you come off a holiday, I'll just basically invoice you which ones you actually want to order. What did you say the name of the plastic? Of those plastic? Do you mean the plastic? The plastic. Do you mean the plastic snaps? They're called cam snaps, K-A-M. I'm hoping that's what you're asking. Me. You're welcome, guys, anytime. Right, I think that's what you're asking. Bye and thank you. Bye and thank you. You're welcome. So I think that's what you're asking, is they are called cam snaps. Yeah, I pushed the wrong button. Yes, they're called cam snaps, K-A-M snaps. And I think you're actually, Carol, you're one of my patrons. So in my Patreon group is 2 links to 2 shops that have actually got cam snaps in at a very good price at the moment. But however, they haven't got these pliers in. So I have actually ordered some pliers for the shop, and they should be here not this week but the following week. So yeah, and I think these are going to be about £7, but they're great pliers and they're easily kept in the pouch, and yeah. Yeah, right, so you're welcome, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.